What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Welcome back. As always, thank you for joining me. My name is Paul Brettel. Today we're here to discuss an important element that the Green Bay Packers offense, that Matt LaFleur needs to figure out this offseason in part of getting this unit, Jordan Love, the offense, the passing game, back on track in 2025. But before we dive into what that is, you know what to do. Hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. Find all my work over at ESPNlacrosse.com, including the article version of what we're discussing here today, and download the 105.5 ESPN Lacrosse app. Packers, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers, radio, everything you need. So like I said, there's an important element of this Packers offense that, like a few other things, was off in 2024, and the Packers, Matt LaFleur, needs to get to the bottom of that. What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? And most importantly, how do you fix it? And that element that I'm talking about is play action. The Packers have to become more efficient, more effective off of play action in 2025. Now, one of the topics, I should say, that you saw circulating Twitter, the internet, all that, especially later on in the season, was the Packers' usage of play action. They weren't doing it enough. And while the outside numbers, Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Reference, perhaps illustrated that by Pro Football Focus's metrics, Jordan Love's drop back rate on play action passes ranked 24th. By Pro Football Reference's numbers, the Packers' pass attempts off of play action ranked 16th. However, those numbers, those figures, vary quite differently than the Packers' own metrics and how they measure play action. Matt LaFleur said after the season that he looked into that and checked with their analytics team, who keeps track and tabs of all that stuff. And LaFleur said that by their own numbers, the Packers ranked third in the NFL in play action usage. So why is there such a distinct difference between, again, the outside numbers and the Packers numbers? And LaFleur shed a little bit of light on that, and it's how you view what a play action play really is. And traditionally, it's the ball fake, right? It's the quarterback gets the ball, fakes the handoff to the running back, ends up keeping it and throwing it, right? That's traditionally how we view what a play action play is. But as Matt LaFleur described, how they view play action, what they count a play action play, is determined by what's the offensive line doing. And the example that he gave was, they have a 6-man protection package. And what might happen on that play is the offensive line, what they're asked to do is you see them in pass protection. But even though there's a ball fake on that, the Packers don't consider that a play action pass. Even though there's a ball fake, they don't consider it that because the offensive line, they're not doing any sort of run action from their blocking perspective. They go immediately into pass protection. And the example that Matt LaFleur gave, if you're a defender and you're watching this play unfold and you see the offensive line immediately go into pass protection, you're probably not very concerned as a defender about the run, right? You see them go into pass protection mode, you know a pass play's coming, that's what you start to defend. So that's how the Packers define what a play action play is. It's not the ball fake. It's what is the offensive line doing, run blocking or pass blocking wise, to give the illusion of, hey, a running play's coming, and trying to get the defense to react in that regard. So again, that's where the discrepancy might come from in terms of how the Packers numbers shake out from a usage rate versus the numbers that we see on the outside. But in terms of how often the Packers utilize play action this season, that part wasn't the issue for them. Now, having said all that, to a degree, everything we just discussed, it's semantics, right? It's how do you define play action when at the end of the day, what we want to know, what we want to see, what we want to diagnose, what we're here to discuss are the results off of play action. And of course, there's a lot of benefits that come with being a good offense off of play action, but two of the big ones, right? It's efficiency, a greater level of efficiency for the quarterback. There should be easier completions out there. And also there should be the opportunity to generate more big plays, right? If you're moving the ball successfully on the ground, you use whether it's the offensive line or the run action, however you go about it, when you use that play action fake to get the defense to think that you're running the ball, right? There's opportunities in the passing game, whether it's getting someone open, mismatches, downfield opportunities that present themselves that you hope show up, that then your offense is able to take advantage of, right? Again, there's a ton of benefits to play action, but increased efficiency for the quarterback and increased big play potential for the passing game as a whole are really two of the big ones that you're hoping to accomplish if you are an effective play action offense. But for the Packers, that wasn't necessarily the case. And again, maybe their internal numbers are different, but what we have to go off of on the outside showed, and I think our eyes showed this as well, or saw it as well, I should say. They just weren't as effective this season, especially compared to last season and compared to the rest of the NFL in 2024 with their play action usage. Jordan Love's efficiency off of play action. He actually and this is from Pro Football Focus, he actually completed 3.1% fewer of his passes on play action than when he didn't run play action. So like I said, what's one of the benefits of play action? You hopefully are a lot more efficient off of it. He actually was less efficient off of play action. He ranked 38th out of 44 eligible quarterbacks in that regard in terms of difference between what's your completion rate off of play action versus what's your completion rate without using play action. Again, he was 3.1% worse when using play action. When it came to generating big plays, his yards per pass attempt only increased by 1.2 yards. That ranked 29th out of 44 eligible quarterbacks. So again, what are the two big things we want to see? Efficiency, big play potential. That wasn't coming from this Packers offense when they were utilizing play action. And as we look at who were some of the most effective quarterbacks off of play action this season, not surprisingly, the quarterbacks that were pretty good on play action, or very good, I should say, were also in charge of offenses that were some of the most productive units in football in terms of just putting up points. Baker Mayfield in the Bucs, Jared Goff and the Lions, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Sam Darnold and the Vikings, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. All of those players, completion rate, yards per pass attempt, some of the best off of play action. All of those offenses, top 10 in the NFL in scoring this season. And Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, just on the outside in terms of that play action efficiency. But again, good offenses, good quarterback play. And again, the Packers, they finished top 10 in the NFL in scoring as well. They still found ways to put up points, but I think in part that also goes to show just what else is out there for this unit, right? And especially at the end of the season as they were struggling to get going, the passing game was disjointed. Having this element to lean on could have helped provide some stability, right? That increased efficiency, perhaps a spark, generating a big play, something that they had a hard time finding at the end of the season. So again, regardless of how we sum up, diagnose, say what a play action play is, the numbers show that the Packers just were not as effective as they needed to be in this regard to truly maximize what is an important element, especially as a part of the Matt LaFleur offense, the Sean McVay offense, the Kyle Shanahan offense. So what contributed to this lack of effectiveness, lack of efficiency off of play action? While by the Packers' own metrics, they utilized play action a lot, again, as we just covered, the results weren't there. And the beautiful thing about football, and we talk about all the time, here's the nuance, right? There's so many moving parts, variables that have to operate as one, in unison, in sync for even one single play to turn out effective. So what we're going to discuss here is by no means the only factors. They may not even be the main contributing factors, but I do think it's very, very noteworthy when we saw how the Packers operated out of play action in 2023 versus this year with largely the same group of players, right? But there was two noticeable differences in how this offense operated, and I think there was a trickle-down effect then, a negative one in this instance, to their effectiveness off of play action. The first thing, the Packers ran the ball out of shotgun far, far more often in 2024 than they did in 2023. And Matt LaFleur even said in his season-ending press conference they were a much more efficient rushing team out of shotgun versus under center. Like anything, there's pros and cons to each decision you make, right? If you're the head coach. And running out of shotgun, one of the pros, for example, might be where's the spacing? You know, if you're in shotgun, you have your receivers out wide, you're spreading the defense out, you're taking them away from the middle of the field. There's more natural running lanes around the line of scrimmage that could occur, again, because there's fewer defenders. There's more space that's just there for the offensive line, the running backs to take advantage of. So what's a potential con to that? What's a con to utilizing play action out of shotgun. Well, the opposite of that is true. The defense is more spread out. Oftentimes, against shotgun, you're in more of if you're the defense, you're in more of a passing situation, right? Versus if you're running play action out of a condensed under center formation, you have a tight end in as a 6 blocker, you're bringing more defenders closer to the line of scrimmage, right? So yes, there's less space at the line of scrimmage. It may make running the ball more difficult in that situation, but now there's more space on the back end. There's more space in the secondary for you to now attack if you're the quarterback coming off of play action in the passing game. Whereas out of shotgun, that's not as true, right? There's not as much space because there's more defenders in that area because the defense is more spread out because you're in shotgun. So again, that's just one example, but that is a potential trickle-down effect of the Packers' decision to run out of shotgun as often as they did and to utilize play action out of shotgun as they did as well. Again, the benefit, they were a really efficient running team out of there. But then how did that impact the play action component of it? And that just naturally might make moving the ball through the air, again, because of where the defenders are, where the spacing is, what they're prepared to defend, versus being under center, which could come with a more believable run action because your entire offensive formation is aligned to run the ball. So you get more of a bite off of that. You get more of the defense to believe it, for lack of a better term, that it's coming. And again, I think the spacing element of it is a really important factor in this. Now, the second component I want to discuss, and the change from 2023 to 2024, and we've talked about this here before, the Packers went from being a much more outside zone running scheme to a gap running scheme in 2024. Outside zone running scheme, you're getting the offensive line on the move. You're getting the running back the ball on the perimeter, getting them flowing towards the sideline, and then they're making a decision on where a lane forms on when to cut back upfield. The gap zone blocking scheme, you're running more between the tackles, and the Packers transition more to that style of play because it suited Josh Jacobs, and it was an adjustment that Matt LaFleur made along the way as the season progressed, because that's where Josh Jacobs is at his best. And within the article that I wrote, and the link is below, there's a really good quote in there from offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich just about running play action out of outside zone versus the gap zone scheme or gap blocking scheme. And one of those elements is with the outside zone blocking, there's more actions you can run off of the play action component. There's more boots that you can do to get the quarterback on the move when you're doing the outside zone scheme. There's different protections that you can have the offensive line do that you can't necessarily do from the gap blocking scheme. So I think to a degree, what the Packers were able to dial up play action wise from a play call standpoint, maybe diversifying what they do within that play action run, is limited because of their more heavy reliance on the gap zone scheme. And again, these are just a few of the potential factors. This certainly isn't all or nothing in terms of contributing to the Packers' woes that they experienced in the lack of effectiveness off of play action. But when we look at last year's team versus this year's team, these are two really, really big differences within this offense. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when you change the running style and that the play action component, which obviously builds off of that, and the two are supposed to be married together, didn't necessarily see the same results. And again, there's a lot of factors in play. We can talk about Jordan Love being injured for half the season, and that just reducing his mobility, right? So you can't run those boot actions. You're not going to have him under center as often. We talked about the issues, the lack of attention to detail at times from the wide receiver position, right? How many play action plays were thrown off because maybe some routes weren't run precisely, or maybe there was a drop pass. What about when they're trailing against the Lions, against the Eagles, against the Vikings? You're down multiple scores in those games. Well, that takes away your ability to run the ball, and that then takes away your ability to lean on play action, because defenses don't, if you want to fake the fake running the ball, go for it. Defenses don't care. They're protecting against the big play. They're protecting their big lead. There is no one thing that contributed to, again, the Packers' lack of effectiveness off of play action. But I do think these two concepts, more gap-heavy scheme, more shotgun, are important components to this that we do need to recognize. All right, last thing before we get out of here. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Big thing this offseason for Matt LaFleur. Has to figure out what kind of running team the Packers are going to be. Are they going to be a heavy run out of shotgun, a heavy gap between the tackles running team, or is the pendulum going to swing back in the other direction in 2025 where there's more outside zone, there's more under center? You're asking Josh Jacobs to do more of the adjusting in terms of implementing those factors, those elements within the offense. And again, I think the key thing here is it doesn't have to be one or the other, but I think what Matt LaFleur has to do is strike a balance between the two. All right, Josh Jacobs does this well. This style of run fits better within the scheme or sets us up better to be more effective off of play action. I think there needs to be a greater balance that Matt LaFleur finds in that regard with the running game. And again, the trickle-down effect of that is, all right, what does that do for play action? What does that do for the offensive line? We've talked about in previous videos the struggles that the Packers' run game had, as steady as it was, the struggles that they had to generate big plays. So I think that's a big item on Matt LaFleur's to-do list this offseason. Who are the Green Bay Packers as a rushing offense, and what are they going to lean into? So I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. If you've made it this far in the video, you might as well hit like, you might as well hit subscribe. I do greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. Find all my work over at ESPNLacrosse.com and download the 1055 ESPN Lacrosse app, Packers, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers Radio, everything you need. Until next time, friends, take care.